what's your conviction in Tesla? So how did you discover Tesla? I love the way that obviously a financial advisor, you come up with a right frame of mind. And then, but then you said you're a risk taker.
Mhm.
What's your conviction in Tesla? Where do you see the stock? Again, not financial advice because you were a financial advisor,
Yep, yep.
but where do you see it headed in the future?
Yeah, so well, up, right? I was actually introduced to Tesla looking at a Model S. I was at my cousin's house and one of their neighbors just bought one and I got to go in it and ride in it and play with the touchscreen. And I'm a huge tech nerd. I have been for a long time and I said, "Wow, this is awesome." So from that standpoint, I started looking into Tesla. And so true story, I was that guy in 2012 making custom Tesla shirts that I would wear to poker games with my friends. And
Oh,
they would all be the ones hating on Tesla, like, "Oh, why do you like that company? Like making golf carts, that whole narrative." And I told him at the time, I'm like, if your ownership of Tesla stock should not be zero. And in a couple of years, you will be thanking me. And for every 5 year period, that's essentially been the case. And while not financial advice, again, like just being honest, that is what I'm foreseeing for Tesla in the future. Looking at valuations, we've had Elon say that Tesla will hit that $4 trillion mark, a combination of Apple and Saudi Aramco or two Apples. So 4 trillion, we're at what, call it 900 billion now. So that's a smooth 3x, if you want to call it that. I know a lot of people like to talk about the 8 trillion, 10 trillion, and in the future, sure, but we have to not get over our skis too much because has there ever been a company over 4 trillion to date? I don't
mhm.
think so. Um, so yeah, we have to kind of keep those things in mind. But where's my conviction come from? Again, it just stems from the total addressable markets that Tesla is in. They're the biggest ones on the planet. Automotive, energy, robotaxis brand new, Optimus brand new. Don't even know how
Mhm.
big those markets are. They're already a global company. So all these people that talk about BYD, they're still mainly China. Now, yes, they're expanding slowly into Europe, but they still have to prove themselves in Europe. And who knows if they'll ever make it here. Well, guess what? Tesla's already United States, China, Europe, and many other countries. Already global, already proven, already really the entire world is trying to get their business. That's not going to stop. Their products will only get better. Their prices will only get better. Their manufacturing will only get better. They have the talent. That's where everybody wants to go. They have a proven track record. They have proven demand. When it comes to the resource side, which is key and it's not fun to talk about, but Tesla has the most leverage there. Why? Because they have the most demand. They have the longest standing relationships with these companies. They have the best locations for the superchargers. It's just like there are so many little things that add into this Tesla soup that is just getting better with each passing year. More talent and more training and more. So, again, I could go on and on and on, but yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they just have a once in a lifetime leader with a perfectly timed mission and product lineup in huge markets with the best product. So, like, it's not that complicated at the end of the day.
I love it. Okay. I mean, so I do have to ask a question then. What do you think are the
Yeah.
risks for Tesla at this point? And I kind of couch it with, if you look at Tesla today, Elon is going global. He's going around shaking hands with every world leader you can think of. They're all reaching out to him. Every company wants to do major partnerships. And like you said, because they have so much scale, every company, every country wants to give them the best deal possible to get them to go there. Given that, like, it's a very different story than it was 2012, where nobody even want
Mhm.
to touch them. They think they're going to fail. Today, they're the clear leader, and they've proven themselves. So, you know what I mean? Like, things should theoretically just get easier and easier. What is the risks? Tell me what you think about the mineral resource issue, the battery constraints, and then what other are the major risks that we should be thinking about and be concerned about?
It's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. I am a big fan of steel manning arguments. I think our culture as a whole really needs to adopt that practice for everything, not just investments, but life and what you believe. Always challenge your assumptions and seek the truth and answers. And
Yeah.
don't be afraid to listen to the other side because that's a skill that will pay dividends. With that said, I think one of the risks that not a lot of people talk about is this next gen product. Like if they
Mm,
plan to sell millions of products a year, they have to nail it. Like it
mhm.
has to be so desirable that many people want it. because a lot of the Model Y, people have wanted it because it's different. Like personally, I've always wanted to have a different car. Like it's funny because I drive a Honda CRV right now that's paid off, but it's the most common car where I live, right? Honda's the biggest dealership here. So I'm a hypocrite, I suppose. But the point stands, like if they want to sell that many units, it's going to have to be a very desirable product. So people talk about, is it going to be a cyber lineup or will it be more like the Model 3? I almost hope it's more like the Model 3 because I think that'll appeal to a wider audience.
Mm,
So, if they come out and take a big risk with that product and kind of miss a large segment of that market, that is fundamentally going to change the 20 million number mark. And that's a really big next step that is obviously a big part of what's going to vault Tesla to the next level of, huge
mm,
mass market manufacturer. But we have no idea what it's going to look like, how Tesla are they going to be removing things and doing it for what they see as the autonomous future. Well, there's a lot of people that want a car that they can handle normally, even though in reality they don't know what they want. I get that whole argument. So I think
mm,
that's one. Of course, Elon, the key man risk, like God forbid if something were to happen to him, he is the brand, and we talk about their deep bench and they have incredible talent, but he's still the visionary, he's still the problem solver, he's still just, it's hard to articulate what he means to the company and the world, and he's just different. There is no replacing him, and I think everybody knows that. Um, but the good news is, there really isn't any risk on the balance sheet side. So Tesla's capex, call it, around $7 billion a year. Even after accounting for that, their free cash flow is still positive. Now, could it dip negative in quarter two? I think there's at least a non-zero chance, but even if it does for one quarter, it doesn't matter, right? Long term, they're generating free cash flow, which is after all expenses, and they already have over $20 billion in cash on the balance sheet. So from that standpoint, they're not going to be forced to, issue shares or raise debt. They're in a great position financially. So while other companies still have that financial risk, Tesla doesn't. So that's a huge deal. But again, I think it just comes down to execution and getting the next wave of people to buy in, because you can argue that most of the early adopters are exhausted. So they're going to be trading their products in, and there's going to be more used Teslas. And that's good because it'll lower the price and hopefully that'll bring in the next wave. But Tesla has to make sure they are attracting the next wave. So far, so good, right? I'm not saying that's a problem now, but over the next few years to go from 2 million units a year to 20, that's a different ball game, an absolutely different ball game from the early adopters to the mass market. Because I talk to a lot of people in my personal life, and I'm telling you right now, and my community knows that a lot of people still really don't get it. The
mhm,
first thing when they talk about EVs is the grid's not ready, they catch on fire
mhm.
too much. Like those are still very real narratives that Tesla is going to have to overcome. And I think they will. Absolutely. That's why I'm convicted in the stock. But yeah, it's just, it won't be without challenges and new problems that arise on the resource side. Again, there's going to be some times, there might be seasons where they're limited when it comes to a certain resource or product or chip, whatever it may be. But it's not, I mean, they've said with their master plan 3, it's nothing that can't be overcome. So it's all going to be short term and problem solving. And that's really what they do best. So,
Well, it's the first time I heard that, Dylan. Thank you for bringing that up to me because I personally have not even thought of what you just said. That was brilliant. That the next Gen 3 is critical because it's mass market. It's got to be something that it's can't be too out there, like you said. Otherwise, the masses won't accept it, and that could be a risk.
mhm.
Because I just always assumed that Tesla's been hitting out of the park, and they'll continue hitting out of the park. What I
Yep.
would want them to do is, we're going to speculate a bit what we think the Gen 3 platform is, but what I was hoping that they would do, it's modular, right? We've heard them say it's going to be the unbox process. What I thought that meant, what that allows them to do is create multiple different variants of a car, if because of the way that it's structured. So they can create a skateboard, front and rear casting, and then they can put different kinds of, structure shapes on top of it. If it's going to be a van, if it's going to be a two-person car, it's a four-person car, a six-person car, they just attach like Lego pieces. Um, Maybe that could also then kind of afford them what would be a robo taxi, which in my mind should be, it's going to be out there, right? It's not something that people will have to choose to buy, but I think it should be on a CyberTruck platform with kind of like this, steel, so that you feel very safe inside. may not need to have a front and rear, but then they do need some sort of car that's like that, that's the Model 2, I guess, the compact car that's a little bit more acceptable that people will be willing to buy. That part is interesting. What any guesses on what the Gen 3 platform might be, and any kind of just a guess, but what's your forecast of what it might look like?
Yeah, so good question. And to your point about the modular thing, it's almost like what GM is planning to do with Altium. So I understand it from a scale perspective, makes complete sense. And I know that Tesla will continue to use certain products across the lineup, whether it's heat pump, whatever they, FSD hardware for. They'll always do that because, again, it get economies of scale, like we talked about earlier.
Mm.
But one of Tesla's unique advantages has been engineering their products for that product. Like
Mhm.
they're not taking an ICE line and slapping on some EV. Like they are first principles ground up. We are making this product from a first principles standpoint, and it's going to be the best that this product can be. And now they, as I said, there are certain things that they can share, but for them to just kind of shift into this new platform where they start doing like a van, a robotaxi, the Model 2 all on one platform, I personally, that wouldn't be my
Mm.
guess. Although I
Mhm.
would understand it if they're optimizing for scale. So again, like how hard do they think it's going to be to get to 20 million? That could absolutely make sense. So I don't want to discredit that thought. I just personally think, again, like the way I would design a cyber van or a regular van would be very different than the Model 2. So maybe again, similar skateboard, a lot of things will be shared, but so I guess at the end of the day, like how different is the modular approach? It's a fair question. What was your original question though?
That was it. Yeah, I mean, it was basically, what do you think the Gen 3 platform is going to look like?
Mm,
And that's what you were saying, that you're not as yeah, guessing that it would be as modular as I was thinking. But what's your take on the factory as the product? And would they ever create factories for other companies? Or that just, people are saying there's no way they'll do that because they just need every factory for themselves. But if the factory is the product, would they not start to kind of open that up for other companies to be able to use? Or
it's an
that's
interesting
kind of
thought.
yeah.
No, interesting thought. I wouldn't say anytime soon,
Yeah.
just because to do that well, you obviously have to have an understanding of what the end goal is for that factory, what the products are, um, what's going to make that product different from a manufacturing standpoint. What are your numbers? What are your demand numbers? Where is all of the supply coming from? So the point being, you really have to understand the business at a deep level to build a factory down to the nitty gritty. So like it would just be such a time investment to do that, where maybe they sell or license a blueprint for something like a modular strategy of building a car, or let give some of that information out, but to actually have like a division that then goes and like spends time with other companies to build it, I personally couldn't foresee that anytime
Yeah.
before 2030. Maybe the next decade it could make some sense, because you're right. I mean, it is a product, it is a specialty added to the list of things that people don't understand why Tesla is so different. And with each new factory, it gets better and better. I mean, with each one, they've changed pretty big things. But yeah, to do that level of help for another company, I don't know. I will say I
Yeah.
don't see it right now.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. It's just a fun question, and maybe a factory as a service, and then the bots. There was a statement apparently by Tom Jew saying that Giga Nueve Leon is going to have 5,000 bots. He apparently made that statement. I haven't found it, but
When, like
uh,
after Investor Day?
yeah, not after. No, no. This is even before, when he was just talking about when he was talking about the Gen 3 platform. Yeah,
Okay,
and yeah.
interesting. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, yeah. So they're really bullish, as you can see from Tesla, about bots,
Mhm.
robotaxi. They're very, very bullish, and we're actually the ones that are like cautious. But internally in the company, they seem to think it's a solved problem. They seem to, and it goes beyond just Elon. But that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, well, you definitely brought up a lot of thoughts in my head here about how to think of things. You're very measured, um, but just back to the original question. So, what do you think the future of Tesla will be? Imagine the future. So, you got a bunch of comments. what was everybody's answers to that question? What would Tesla look like in let's say 8 or 10 years from now? What would the
Yeah,
world
I
look
think
like?
yeah, I think that's cool because Tesla's impact on the world will be so large. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm some hyper bull detached from reality, like Tesla's taking
Yeah.
over the world. But honestly, when you play these things out, it walks down that path a little bit. Like I really foresee in the 2030s, like Lord willing, hopefully I'm around then still, but they'll be such a big company with their tentacles in so many different
Hmm.
products and regions and ecosystems, so deeply rooted in the structure that is charging vehicles and the home situation we talked about, and this fleet of vehicles and robotaxis all over the world, giving people, autonomy back. It almost brings in the question of like monopoly, antitrust issues. Like this company is
Right.
too big. I really do think they'll be the first company that at some point
Hmm.
is so big the government's like, what do we do? Do we start talking about they have to start spinning off companies and doing something like that? So it'll obviously take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I mean, Elon's what, 57? So, I mean, he could have easily another 10, 15 years where he's still pretty hands on, even if his role changes. He can still navigate the ship from afar, whatever role he's in. And again, the Tesla flywheel with all of their talent and products, it's not going to stop. They'll keep getting new talent. And so, yeah, I don't want to drill into the detail and ramble
Yeah.
on, but I
Yeah.
just think most people, general public especially, has no idea what's coming.